Hey guys, my name is Oliver. Welcome back to my channel. I say that because I have gained 5 whole subscribers, which is crazy. Adding on to that, you guys are so nice with your comments. Like, seriously made my day looking at some of the comments on my last video. So, you guys are awesome. I have a very important question for you guys. Remember old time? If you were on the gaming side of YouTube from around 2014 to 2016, you probably remember Tomodachi Life, a Nintendo 3DS game that became surprisingly popular around that time. From an outsider's perspective, the game probably didn't look like anything special. It was just a game where you took care of Miis that lived on their own island. However, there was definitely something more to this game than what meets the eye considering its popularity. I remember when I first heard about this game, I begged and begged my parents for a Nintendo 3DS just so I could play this game specifically. I begged for like a couple of days before my parents finally gave in and bought me my own Nintendo 3DS. One sec. Which, guess what, guys? That's right, I got 3DS XL Galaxy Print Edition, and here is the game. Oh, is it gonna focus? I have to be like the beauty gurus. There you go. And I actually still play it. Like, I still have my own island. I'm still taking care of my own islanders. I mean, I've had to restart a couple of times because I am a very different person than who I was in 2016. I have like a couple hundred hours on this game. Like, not even from recently, but from when I first bought it. Also, while I was writing this script, I did get sidetracked a couple of times because I was too busy playing Tomodachi Life, so I guess that says something about this game. It is very addicting, and I haven't checked on my islanders at all today, so I'm probably going to do that after I'm done filming this video. Anyways, let's get into a deep dive of Nintendo's Tomodachi Life. Released in North America and Europe in June of 2014, Tomodachi Life was a Nintendo 3DS game in which a player oversees an island populated entirely by user-created Miis. While playing the game, the player can solve problems for the Miis, talk to them, and watch them grow friendships with other Miis. What a lot of people don't know is that Tomodachi Life was not the first game in its series. The first game in the Tomodachi Life series was called Tomodachi Collection, a Japan-only game made for the original Nintendo DS. The game was fairly simplistic and looked like a slightly lower quality version of what Tomodachi Life would become. Being released on June 18, 2009, it was the most popular game during its release week, selling around 100,000 units. By September of that year, it had sold over 1 million copies, and by 2010, it had sold around 3 million copies. During a Japanese Iwata Asks interview, the game was made as a version that adult women could play of the Japanese exclusive video game. I'm gonna butcher that name, so there it is. It was basically a game on the Game Boy Color where the player would fill out information about themselves and then the game would make predictions about the player. Well, gameplay for Tomodachi Life still holds up relatively well in 2022. The same cannot really be said about Tomodachi Collection. The most egregious thing about the game that I've seen in playthroughs and videos on YouTube is the Mii's voice. God, it's nonetheless, I actually find the more pixel art style of the game very charming, like the newer US counterpart. Another cool thing about Tomodachi Collection is that it had a built-in Mii creator, which the Nintendo DS lacked at the time. This brings us to the development of Tomodachi Life. After the commercial success of Tomodachi Collection in Japan, development began on Tomodachi Collection New Life, a direct sequel to the previous game. At Nintendo Direct in 2013, 4 years after Tomodachi Collection's initial release, Nintendo announced that they were going to release a sequel for the game called Tomodachi Collection New Life, along with a new 3DS console that was bundled with the game. A couple more minor announcements were made about the game until it was released in Japan in April of 2013. Though Nintendo wanted to create versions of Tomodachi Collection New Life for countries outside of Japan, making the game more relevant to other cultures proved to be a challenge for Nintendo. All the content of Tomodachi Collection and Tomodachi Collection New Life was made specifically with the Japanese audience in mind. Despite this, in January of 2014, Nintendo would directly hint that they were working on a way of releasing Tomodachi Collection New Life for audiences outside of Japan. A year after Tomodachi Collection New Life's release, Nintendo announced that they were going to release the game we all know and love, Tomodachi Life, worldwide. As a note, I will be referring to the Japanese version of Tomodachi Life as New Life or Tomodachi Collection, even though there's 2 Tomodachi Collections. Just know that now I'm referring to the Japanese version of Tomodachi Life, and I'm going to be referring to the Western release of Tomodachi Collection as Tomodachi Life. A select few people of Club Nintendo in North America were given a demo of the game, promising players a bonus in-game item when they transferred the demo's data to the full game. I've tried searching everywhere for what this bonus item was, and for the life of me, I cannot find it, and it keeps me up at night. I need to know what bonus item that these people had that I was not able to get. I have spent so many hours on this game. I deserve this bonus item, and I'm mad that I don't know what it is, and I've tried looking for it, and I cannot find it. So if anybody knows what this item is, please tell me so I can know if it's worth it or not that I didn't have it, because oh my god, it keeps me up at night. The release of this first exclusive demo, however, did not go over well with fans. The demo went out to Platinum members of Club Nintendo, however, not every Platinum member got a demo. It looked like if members had purchased Animal Crossing New Leaf, that they were more likely to be given a code by Nintendo, but even people who bought New Leaf and were Platinum members sometimes didn't get a demo, so people weren't very happy about that. Later, a demo was released publicly on the Nintendo eShop, and the game was released in both North America and Europe on June 6th. Additionally, Tomodachi Life was released in South Korea as Friend Gathering Apartment. I just thought that the name was like super interesting because it's completely different than literally all the other adaptions. Also, while doing research for this video, I found a lot of surprising differences between New Life, Tomodachi Life, and Friend Gathering Apartment. So here are some of the most interesting differences I found between the games. The Japanese and Korean versions of the game lack an observation tower. Instead, the rooftops of the apartment functions as one. In the Japanese and Korean versions of the game, it is possible for a child and adult me to date and even marry and have children. Yeah. That's one I found. In the Japanese version of the game, it is possible for a single me to confess to a married me, and believe it or not, the married me can actually accept the confession. In Tomodachi Collection New Life, it is possible for a me to have 2 catchphrases, one with how a me identifies himself, and another that is a regular catchphrase. In Tomodachi Collection New Life and in Friend Gathering Apartment, it was possible to give a me a specific blood type, which is like, why would you need that in this game? When you give your Miis food or medicine in Tomodachi Life, they usually just eat the food. However, in the Japanese and Korean versions of the game, the Mii will thank you and then eat their food or medicine, which I think says a lot about Western culture. Only in the Korean version of the game, Miis can set up blind dates with other Miis of the opposite gender. If the date goes well, the Miis will automatically become a couple. I honestly wonder why this was removed from the other versions of the game, considering that blind dates are also popular in the West. There's also a couple more obscure and minuscule differences between all the versions of the game that I didn't feel the need to go over, but reading about some of the difference in the mannerisms between the Miis in the Western and Eastern versions of the games is really funny, especially when you take into account what Nintendo would consider impolite. The release of Tomodachi Life in the West was met with some pretty mixed reviews. A lot of critics of the game praised it for its quirkiness, saying that the game was charming in its own way, while some criticized the game for being way too simplistic. As stated in a Eurogamer article, quote, Tomodachi Life is a simple throwaway toy, then one with plenty of cute tricks, but not quite enough of them to stop you from tossing it aside after a handful of hours. I can't say that this is exactly false. Tomodachi Life gets very repetitive fast, meaning that a lot of people probably drop the game after a couple of weeks. Tomodachi Life is also an observational game, so the lack of player input could have driven a lot of people away. However, despite the mixed reviews, Tomodachi Life was able to capture the attention of millions because of the game's quirky and absurd premise.
What the what? Christina Aguilera?
With popularity also comes controversy. As the game was released in the West, a lot of American and European players became upset that Miis can only become romantically involved with other Miis of the opposite gender. To get around this annoying feature, players would often make their Miis appear as the opposite gender. However, this still proved to be annoying because the Miis would have the wrong pronouns. So all in all, it wasn't really an ideal fix. Outraged fans even started campaigning for Nintendo to let same-sex couples be possible in Tomodachi Life, in which Nintendo replied with this. Nintendo never intended to make any form of social commentary with the launch of Tomodachi Life. The relationship options in the game represent a playful alternate world rather than a real-life simulation. We hope that all of our fans will see that Tomodachi Life was intended to be a whimsical and quirky game and that we were absolutely not trying to provide social commentary. This answer from Nintendo is not a satisfying one. Being able to make your characters gay isn't really providing a social commentary, but to each their own, I guess. Another big problem with Tomodachi Life now is that Miis can only be assigned 2 different genders. I find this especially tricky considering I have non-binary friends that I've tried to implement into my island, so I just kind of have to sit on the gender selection screen and be like, which one do I choose? I don't want to choose the gender that they were assigned at birth because that makes me transphobic, but it's weird choosing the other one because they're not the other gender either. I guess the fans didn't really seem to find this as an issue when the game was first released, but I wanted to touch on it now since it is a problem I frequently run into when I play the game. Enter YouTube, a platform that can quite literally make or break your game's success, especially at the time that Tomodachi Life was released. In 2016, popular child's content creator DanTDM would pick up the game to make a Let's Play series. The success of this series was astronomical. The game's charms mixed with DanTDM's large following caused the series to be the most popular Tomodachi Life series on YouTube. When I say that this series is the most popular Tomodachi Life series, I mean it. If you look up Tomodachi Life on YouTube and sort by view count, the overwhelming majority of the videos that pop up are from DanTDM's series on the game. I remember watching Dan play this game was what inspired me to want to play this game myself. A couple of other gaming YouTubers have picked up this game, some even playing it more recently, but none of their videos have ever done as well as Dan's. Though the series wasn't constantly updating throughout 2017, the last episode released of Tomodachi Life was streamed in around June of 2018. As YouTubers stopped consistently playing Tomodachi Life and viewers lost interest, the game started to fizzle in popularity, especially with Nintendo's Miitopia being released in 2016. Shout out to anyone who played the original Miitopia on their Nintendo 3DS before it became popular on the Switch. I know you guys are out there somewhere. Miitopia and Tomodachi Life had a lot of similarities, such as the game is played with all player-created Miis, and the Miis could develop friendships with each other. But Miitopia had a straightforward plotline and drew in a lot more players due to its more structured story and gameplay. YouTubers that got attention for playing Tomodachi Life soon switched to Miitopia after viewers lost interest in Tomodachi Life. Something that I didn't write in this script, but I do want to talk about now, is that while I was writing the script and looking at Miitopia, it also inspired me to start playing Miitopia again. So I booted up my Miitopia and then reset it because I finished the game a while ago. And another thing about Miitopia is that it also can get very repetitive. Tomodachi Life is not really talked about in the gaming community anymore. Though some YouTubers like Tommy Innit, oh my god, why am I talking about him on my channel? And Lauren Z-Side have covered the game more recently. None of their videos on the game have ever gotten anywhere near the views that the game used to get. For example, Tommy's video on the game released around 4 months ago has only gotten around 500,000 views. Comparing that to the millions of views Tomodachi Life got in its heyday, it's really obvious that Tomodachi Life is past its prime. Though the game isn't super popular anymore, it still has a cult following. A lot of players, such as myself, find themselves returning once a year to play the game and relive a lot of the wacky and quirky memories they have. If you look up Tomodachi Life on YouTube, you can still find a decent amount of people uploading videos on the game, whether it be as nostalgia bait or people who are consistently playing, which I think is really cool. I think a lot of people started to remember Tomodachi Life at the beginning of quarantine. Playing Tomodachi Life was a good time waster, and a lot like the other games that were popular during quarantine like Animal Crossing New Horizons, the game probably brought a lot of people comfort for its nostalgia and the feeling like everything was normal, or at least as normal as Tomodachi Life can be. With the re-release of Miitopia on the Nintendo Switch in 2021, That's right, I'm not done talking about Miitopia. A lot of players started to push for a Switch adaptation of Tomodachi Life as well. There's even a petition on change.org for Tomodachi Life to be brought to the Switch with an astonishing 16,800 signatures. Many articles and videos have been made on the topic, some talking about features that could be implemented for a Switch version, and some people straight up convinced that Nintendo's going to release Tomodachi Life for the Switch. While I'm making this video, however, Nintendo has not said anything about revisiting the Tomodachi Life franchise, which is very sad, and I really hope that they do. I'm totally on board for having a Tomodachi Life Switch version, so I'm gonna link the petition in the description, even though I know it probably won't go anywhere, but make sure to sign it anyways, because you never know. Tomodachi Life was a fun and quirky game released in 2013 with a lot of charm that captivated an entire generation around the world. The game was vastly different than anything else you could play on the 3DS, or really any other platform at the time. Though the game is nowhere near as popular as it used to be, the game is still very nostalgic for a lot of people my age and even older than me. Writing this video was also super fun. It was really interesting to do a deep dive into a game that I hold so near and dear to my heart, but most importantly, goddamn, I still need to know what that mystery item is. Literally, what was it? I know this video is a little bit different than the past two videos I made, but like, internet history has always been something that's super interesting, and something like Tomodachi Life, which I absolutely love, is just something that I really wanted to make a video about. I also love watching deep dive videos, and making this video was super fun, so if you want to see more of that, then consider liking and subscribing. Again, thanks for all the support on my last video. It really made my day. Just like, I think it had like 13 whole likes, and I was like, oh my god, 13 whole likes, and I was like freaking out, and I don't know, it was just nice. Thank you guys. Anyways, thanks for watching. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. Alright, bye.